All right, what day is it now? It is Monday, June 2nd. And here I am this whole time. I thought I had to go back to... Rude. What a rude dog. I had to go back to the boat for Tuesday night. And then Sarah goes, well, you got to fish tomorrow. You got to go back today, right? I'm like, what? No. And I'm not complaining about the fishing. It's just, holy shit, really? I didn't realize that. If I'd have known that, I would have stayed out there. But anyway. It's funny, last night the dog was doing her job extremely well. I guess we got woken up out of a coma with the dog just absolutely explodes. Arr, 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 with that guard dog voice. Freaking out, ripping around the house up to the windows like going ape shit. You're halfway groggy, you look out there and I just saw a couple of deer go ripping by the back door. I'm like, all right, couple deer. Back to bed. Then she went really crazy. So I got the thermal out and went outside. And there's two big strange dogs in my in the front yard chasing horses and shit. Holy cow, hold on a minute. Anyway. Lucky I didn't let her out. But imagine if I did, she would have shredded those suckers. She is one fierce frickin' animal. Holy cow, when it comes to guarding her pack. Whew. If it was a bear, I would have let her out. Anyway, got rid of the dogs. No, I didn't hurt them. Now, she doesn't want to come up and sit on the carpet with me and listen to emails anymore. She comes out of the shop, I give her a bone, and she wants to go outside and sit there and guard me from the shop door and chew on her bone. What am I doing? She wants to go out there and guard me in the entrance to the shop. Now, what else? The winner of the trail camera, don't forget, post up yesterday. I should post that on the post section of the channel. Our winner yesterday for the Guard Pro trail camera, still to date, the best trail camera I have used to date, and the best affordable for quality. It's way less than the ones I've been buying in the past. I guess that's the way it goes with technology, though, right? Now, the membership. I had a handful of emails of people asking how to join the membership on the channel. I don't know. I haven't a clue. What do you think? I'm a YouTuber or something? I don't know how. I think there's the membership, members only place where there's still a few videos up there for members only. Maybe click on that and it'll say members only. And then I'm sure that'll take you to the link on how to become a member. Even if you want to do it just until the trail cameras are all drawn. I still got a big box of them there. Was it $3 a month or something? And then you feed kids and you might win a couple $100 or $150 trail camera, right? So there, yeah, just try to find the membership, or maybe somebody can throw down in the comment section where to join the membership in the channel, because I really haven't a clue myself. I know, weak, right? Whatever. Now, email boxes are stacked, all of them, stacked. Fresh out of the pen. May 31st, 2025 in Massachusetts. Dear Mr. Isdall, I'm a city girl who went camping only once. Uh-oh. It was in the Rockies near Yellowstone with a church group. Well, it snowed several inches on the 4th of July. I got caught in the skimpy tent one afternoon during a horrific thunder/lightning/hailstorm that covered the ground white. And worse, from a tent nearby, I could smell Doritos at night, despite signs not to have food in tents. No, do bears like Doritos? So you sound like Sarah. I call her the Beagle. She can smell anything. It's crazy. My Sabi, yeah, they do like Doritos. They like anything. My Sabi encounter is so bizarre that I'll preface by admitting that I am a seer. I have experiences, visitations, visions, most by far wonderful, a few dark, that others do not, including NDE, that's near-death experience, out-of-body travel, angel interactions, I see dead people, not ghostly, and inklings from the future. Over a lifetime, I learned not to speak of them but occasionally I am with someone who shouts or whispers, "Did you see that?" Several months ago, I decided to pray for the protection of the good forest people. And one night, a few days later, I saw a large photo frame about 2 feet square, floating beside my bed at pillow height. I raised myself up on an elbow to see it better. I was fully awake, and inside the frame was a living portrait of a sabe, conical skull, well-groomed black hair, brow ridges, flat nose, wide mouth, narrow lips, no facial hair, dark skin like fine Italian leather, big brown eyes, no odor, and I had no fear. There was something soft about this sabe. I knew it was female, and I asked, what did it want, and why was it here? And the sabe answered, in mind speak, I wanted to see you. I told her she was very attractive because she was, not at all like some of the drawings I've seen of ferocious, monstrous Bigfoot. And she smiled a Mona Lisa enigmatic smile. Immediately, the frame collapsed in on itself and vanished, obviously a portal. Since I was wide awake, I walked into the kitchen, made coffee, and sat down thinking about this visitation. And after a lifetime of weird, unusual events, little scares me, especially because I know from experience that help is always just a whisper away. Today, I am elderly, short, round, gray, wrinkled, and 80-ish. My days, but I'm sure you are absolutely beautiful. Regardless of what you think, my days on Earth are limited due to severe heart issues. I want to leave this embodiment with a clean slate, so no fibbing here. 3 short version confessions about my gifts that may be of interest. Wow, okay, here we go. Number 1. One night, I appeared to my brother, 125 miles away, hysterically begging him not to keep a 10 a.m. appointment in New York City at the Twin Towers on 9/11, and he rescheduled. Wow. Number 2. One night an angel took me to see warrior angels, each with a silvery sword, finely fashioned like jewelry, but actual lightsabers. This army extended to the far horizon, numbering in the millions, and it was only one of many such armies. Wow. And number 3, as a toddler, I played with angels. Angel laughter is wonderfully magical. My parting wish is for all of you to pray, pray, pray in any religion. They all contain pearls of wisdom and some baloney. Just live in light as much as possible. Try to love everyone, especially those you dislike the most. Remember, the light of God never fails. This is the only truth you need to know. May angels call you beloved. Claire. P.S. Although they may fit the description, I do not sense Sabe or Nephilim. They are something other. Once in France, I was pulled out of line at gunpoint at O'Hare Airport because I fit the description of a terrorist. I was standing beside my physician husband, and a young son, all born U.S. citizens, only in Paris. Wow. And your phone number, Claire, appreciate you. I definitely can't be making any phone calls anytime soon, that's for sure, with my crazy-ass schedule. But if you want to email back in the near future, anytime, please do. All right? Please do. I'd love to hear more from you. I'll mark this as look into, as I always do with phone numbers, and look into. That's incredible. What a lifetime you must have had, Claire. Very, very interesting. Appreciate you emailing us big time. Only France, right? Yeah, lots going on in France, Germany, Britain. They've all fallen a long time ago. Say the same as Canada. Did you guys know that in Britain, I think an average 30 people an average a day are being arrested for their social media posts? And there's one woman in particular, I guess it was right after those 3 little girls were stabbed to death by an immigrant. Woman lashed out on social media and Facebook, as expected. I mean, the rape, the gangs, etc., that have been going on in that country for quite some time and being covered up is absolutely astonishing, disgusting, despicable, everything you can say, describe it. But anyway, this woman lashed out after those 3 beautiful little girls were murdered, and she lashed out in a way at the illegal immigration. And the British government went to her home, arrested her for her post on social media. You can look this up for the receipts. They're all there. And she's now doing 2.5 years imprisonment in the United Kingdom for making a social media post. And she even took down the post and apologized before they came and got her. They put her away for 2.5 years. Wow. So yeah, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom especially. How embarrassing, I'm talking about the governments, how embarrassing, cringe of an existence they are today. And yeah, they should be annihilated. Those people that in government that are doing this to the people is what I mean. I'll bite my lip. We'll keep on listening to the people. As soon as I come back from breakfast, I just got the text, I gotta go have breakfast. Oops. I'll be right back in a minute. All right. Here we go. Back at her. I'm all fed. Now, this is fresh out of the pan, too. Possible BC interior dog-man encounter. Ooh. Not a common report. Hi, Steve. Just want to let you, I recently discovered your channel and enjoy your content tremendously. I know you're busy and I'll try to keep this as short as possible, but I do have a lot of details to share with you. All right. About me, I'm a dual-ticketed red-sealed tradesman. I spent 8 years in the CAF back in the 80s. I think that's Canadian Air Force, I'm imagining. I like to hunt and fish and spend time outdoors. I've hunted moose, bear, and deer. I'm not a predator hunter simply because of the time restraints, devoting most of my hunting to trying to put food on the table. However, I have seen lots of coyotes, some wolves, and cats in my time. I'm not a tough guy, but I'm not a pushover either. It takes a lot to rattle me. The day of my encounter began the night before when I packed my fly rod, waders, vest, and boots into my truck along with a warm hoodie and clean clothes for the return trip home. I live in Williams Lake, BC, and was heading out in the morning to fish the Horsefly River for a few hours back in 2017. I knew the water was low, gin clear. Temperatures were high, and I was surprised the river wasn't closed because sections of the Horsefly are considered classified waters, and fisheries will shut it down during abnormal conditions. The rainbow fishing is tough, but under the right conditions and right fly, simply spectacular. I arrived at my spot and indeed the water was low and had no luck with a handful of go-to flies that usually produce. It was about 11 a.m. and I decided to call it quits, but changed my mind to fish a few pools further downstream that I know of. I arrived there in 20 minutes and parked. I grabbed my gear and started hiking down the bank. The bank's very steep with lots of rocks and boulders to navigate through. And with all your fishing gear, it is a very slow descent. I got to the first pool, made my third or fourth cast when from the opposite bank, a burst of birds exploded out of the willows that lined across the river from me. I'm talking hundreds of finches, etc., that were bedded down to escape the daytime heat. All took to the sky. My instinct was to start stripping my instinct was to start stripping in fly line. The hair on the back of my neck went straight up. And then suddenly, whoops, sorry you guys. Oh, come on. Suddenly I caught a glimpse of a tall, dark figure emerging out of the willows. The nose was still hidden, but the upper snout, 2 black eyes, and 2 canine ears were there staring down at me in the river. And I estimate it was approximately 7 feet tall, judging by trees it stood by. Whoa. At that moment, it jumped into the river, excuse me, doing an old-fashioned cannonball we used to say in the day. It had gray and black mottled and wispy hair. The sun was shining through it and had large, solid black pads for feet. When it came to the surface of the river, because all the hair was wet, I got a better representation of this creature. It stood in the current in about 5 feet of water. And because the hair on its head was wet, the head itself looked like an oversized football. It had a massive mouth full of white teeth, just like a dog. Its arms were long and skinny, but still sinewy and muscular. The one thing that triggered my brain to get the F out were the hands at the ends of those arms. Massive. The size of basketballs with 5 individual digits and claws proportionate to the length of each digit. No paws, not hoofs. It managed to wipe the water out of its eyes with those hands. And that's when I just turned and started hiking back up the bank. I kept my composure and got my truck keys out of my vest. I climbed back to where my truck was and saw one more splash from a leg kick down at the river bottom. I got in my truck and drove away. I never felt threatened by this animal, but didn't want to spend time in its presence either. I have fished this river since, but never alone. Thanks, Steve, for letting me bend your ear. I'm not expecting you to, but if you do use my story in a future podcast, please keep my personal information anonymous. Tight lines, brother. Okay, I gotta go back to you. Okay, I didn't share anything. I got you, man, no problem. Williams Lake. You guys are in the news a lot lately right now with all your crime. Side note. Pretty sad, isn't it, the downtown core? Was it the mayor's going to consider putting Williams Lake in a state of emergency right now because of the absolute chaos that's going on in that town? There you go. I've got friends who grew up in Horsefly. I know a lot of people around there, obviously, but I haven't heard a description of this yet, I don't think. It's just amazing, though, right? You imagine seeing something like that? Not too many. I don't think I've had any descriptions like that directly from British Columbia yet. I think maybe one time a handful of years ago, I went and did that radio show. And that guy, is from British Columbia. And he said that he had seen 3 or 4 dog men near 100 Mile House. That's about it that my brain can recall right now. Good for you for still going. But what a frickin' thing to see. Shit. No thanks. Anybody else from around here in BC that's seen that same being, let me know. Let us know about it, please. Don't be scared. Don't be scared to share that, all right? Wow. Excuse me. Skamania County sighting, 1976. Hello, Steve. I enjoy the stories on your channel. The amount of stories related is mind-boggling. As before the internet, people rarely talked about this phenomenon. That's because we couldn't talk. That's the only reason. We couldn't talk, and only a very, very, very small group controlled what we are allowed to have exposure to, as in the way of knowledge, anything. Okay, I'll bite my lip again. Anyway, to my story. I was 6 years old in 1976. My old man moved us north to North Bonnyville, Washington, because of some work in the area. This was before they expanded the Bonnyville Dam, and eminent domain changed the area. At the time, we lived in a trailer park that backed up to miles of forest to the north. Now remember, a road next to the trailer park that cut into the forest and headed back up into the mountains. We used to play in the woods as kids constantly, and it was like a never-ending playground. This particular day, my mother asked me if I wanted to take a walk with her and my baby sister. I said, sure. And we headed out up the road. My sister in a stroller and me by my mother's side. We'd walked maybe a quarter mile up the road through the woods. The woods opened up into a clear area with a swampy area on the left of the road and the woods to the right. And as we entered this clearing, we jokingly said there must be roadkill nearby, as a stench hit us. A little further, and we were startled as we heard an animal in the cattails. We whispered so as not to spook whatever it was, and walked further on. And as we went further, we noticed at first a dark shape down in the cattails that we thought was a bear. Whatever it was, seemed to be pulling up cattails and eating the roots. I told my mother, I wanted to see it closer and took a step towards it. And as I stepped off of the pavement onto the gravel, it must have heard me. The thing stood up and turned, facing us to reveal that this was no bear. It was about 8 feet tall, full of dark hair, and wasn't too happy we startled it. I could now see it was holding cattails in its hand. We were frozen trying to process what we were seeing, and all of a sudden this creature let out a god-awful scream that scared the crap out of us. I stumbled back in terror, hair standing on end, and my mother was already turned and running, pushing the stroller to get my baby sister out of there. LOL. I soon bolted past my mother down the road with her yelling, "Don't leave us." I was too afraid to look behind me because I just knew this monster was going to get us. Fortunately, as we neared the trailer park, we slowed to being out of breath and noticed we weren't being pursued. And needless to say, I stopped playing in the woods and always have my head on a swivel when I'm outdoors, even in the city. Maybe that's a good thing, LOL. I'm now 51 years old, and the story has been told and retold in our family many times. The younger members of our family find it hard to believe, but I don't give a crap. I know what I saw that day, and my mother witnessed it. Thanks, Steve, for archiving my story. Kindly, Matt. Can I use your name, Matt? I think so. Okay. Your name is Matt Singler. Matt, appreciate, man. Thank you so much for contributing to the people here and being a member of the club of the brave and the honest. And somewhat the unfortunate in a way too, right? Can be debatable. What do we got here? Going in. Mark, this is red. Close-up encounter with entity/creature. Hi, Steve. My name is... I hope I can use it. I might have read this. Hi, Steve. My name is Brian Poole, age 56 at the time of the sighting. I live in the UK, on the coast, in the small seaside town of St. Anne's, Lancashire. The incident happened in early June on a Sunday in the summer 2012. I was up very early taking my German Shepherd, Major, for his morning walk on the beach. To add a bit of context, to call our town St. Anne's on the Sea is a bit misleading. The tide is usually way out. We live on a tidal estuary most of the time. It's a good half-a-mile walk from the promenade to even get to the tide line. And so it was on this lovely summer's day morning. The sun was already high in the sky, giving full daylight. That's when my encounter began. It was 6 a.m. in the morning. The beach was totally deserted except for me and my dog. We walked the half a mile across the sands until I was less than 50 yards from the incoming tide, which is always very shallow and comes in like a trickle. Just looking at the vista, I noticed to my left, coming up from the south, a small dark dot low on the horizon, which made it unusual. What made it unusual is that it was above the tide, and to my astonishment was headed my way. As it got nearer to my position, more detail was emerging, and it was what I can only describe as a flying entity or humanoid. It was silently hovering 8 to 10 feet above the water's edge, traveling no more than 10 miles an hour and coming closer to my position, hugging the tide line all the time. Now here's where eyes will start to roll. The entity was traveling on some type of contraption, a silent, hovering vehicle of some type. And to describe the contraption the entity was riding on, I can only find a familiar frame of reference from my own memories, and so it reminded me of the British puppet show of the 60s, Fireball XL5, where they traveled on hoverbikes. This contraption reminded me of those hoverbikes, minus the handlebars. And again, this is just my impression. To continue, the entity or a flying humanoid passed directly in front of me less than 50 yards away. It hovered right past me, still totally unaware of either me or my dog's presence. The entity was leaning right over the contraption, lurched fully over, head intently staring down at the tide line. I don't know if it was looking for something, or that it had never seen a shoreline before. but it was so engrossed in staring down at the tide that it still wasn't aware of my presence. And as it began to pass right in front of me, less than 50 yards away, I couldn't resist myself, and I shouted out at the top of my voice with both arms waving, "Hey you! Over here! Hey, over here!" The moment I did, the entity, caught completely by surprise, almost fell off the contraption. It sat bolt upright, took less than a second to look directly at me, then without hesitation, headed back out to sea. Whoa. The entity, still in no great hurry, maybe 20 miles per hour, began gaining altitude in a series of jerky jumps to gain height. If you remember the old barber's chairs, it was like that same sort of jerky upward motion. Then it would push forward. Then more jump, jerky motion to gain further altitude and push forward. And this thing continued. Where within 5 minutes it was up approximately 4,000 to 6,000 feet in altitude and approximately 5 miles out to sea. The entity, now a tiny black dot, disappeared into a huge cumulus cloud. Sorry, I'm not quite awake, you guys. Cumulus cloud, the big white fluffy summer type. I stayed staring at that cloud for 20 minutes and it never reappeared. So that was the end of my sighting. In total, from start to finish, the incident lasted approximately 20 minutes. And I will now try to describe the entity, and eyes will start to roll again. The entity and contraption were both the same color. Dark tan brown, almost a distressed, weathered leather color. It's almost like the entity and vehicle were molded. The description of the entity is as follows. The only frame of reference I can relate to come close to what I saw was the creature in the first Jeepers Creepers film. It had the same dark leathery face, the same sharp angled bone structure, high cheekbones, no helmet or head covering, no hair, but what I perceived as small bumps or nodules on the skull. I didn't see any teeth, but I perceived dark eyes and a tinge of white. With a tinge of white. I'll read that again. I didn't see any teeth, but I perceived dark eyes with a tinge of white. No breathing apparatus. It was breathing our air. Hard to estimate its size as it was straddling the contraption, but from my vantage point, it looked to be of human height, maybe slightly taller and thinner. Again, just my impression. To conclude, the whole incident took place in complete silence, apart from myself shouting at the creature, so no humming or buzzing from the contraption. The only sound was from the gentle loping of the waves. Not even my dog made a sound, not even a whimper or a bark. It just stared at the entity, cocking its head to one side. I felt no fear or threat during the whole incident. The entity also showing no hostile intent to me either. It just wanted to get the hell out of there. As is always the case in these situations, my brand new state-of-the-art Samsung smartphone was left at home being charged up. I could kick myself today knowing what I could have captured on video for all the world to see. High-definition close-up video of a flying humanoid or entity just 50 yards away in clear daylight and at sea level. I think it would have even surpassed the famous Patterson-Gimlin footage. Anyway, Steve, feel free to use my name. I'm willing to sign any affidavit, swear in a stack of Bibles, take a lie detector test, be cross-examined, whatever. I know what I saw that day. My testimony above is the absolute truth of an incident involving a flying humanoid on that fateful summer's June morning of 2012. Cheers, Steve, Brian. Cheers to you, Brian. That's a holy shitter. My eyes don't roll. They can't anymore. Well, to a point, but you didn't make my eyes roll. The only thing I'm thinking the whole time is how many other people have seen that. If that person being screwed up once, it's screwed up before, another one like it screwed up before, and somebody's seen it somewhere in the world. It's just whether or not somebody else who saw that are willing to acknowledge it between their ears first and then speak loudly about it. Right? I appreciate you, man. If anything else as odd has happened to you since that day, email me back, all right? Email us back and give us an update if some weird shit started to happen after that. Next. I don't know if you can hear it, but the dog's chewing on her bone out there. Yowie jumped 30 to 35 feet like nothing is the title of this email. May have read it, may not have. I don't know. I don't think so. We'll see. Hi, Steve. Mike from Australia here. I really appreciate you doing what you believe in. I've had multiple encounters and people think I'm nuts because I want to warn them of the dangers. And now I will not tolerate wankers like Joe Rogan making dickhead about it, or news readers who play dumb. Full stop. I'm 50. I'm in Northeast Victoria. I will back you up from here if I can. I've heard them growl and follow me now and then, but 18 years ago it changed my life forever. Me and a friend were mad trout fishermen. He had an old Land Cruiser with 33-inch treads, so the Blue Range Mountains was a must. The best river we could find was the Upper Buffalo, where the river was like a creek. We spun with blue and red kelters. And we walked sometime 3 or 4 kilometers upstream at the crack of dawn. This one morning I was getting a bad feeling on a stretch of water we hadn't fished before, like spirits warning us to go back. Then I could hear a woofing noise from above. When I looked up, 2 large cones of bark from the tall white gum trees came hurtling down straight for us. I yelled, "Hey, move," while stepping back. They're almost a meter long with a sharp point. Almost killed us. No shit. What the F? We got over it and kept going. Within the next 100 meters, this bad smell hit us. It was like gangrene, not dead smell. I said, "Okay, let's go back. Something's not right." He said, "Come on, I've been hunting for a year. It's nothing." We pressed on until we came to an elbow in the river, shaded by willow trees and beautiful fishing holes. Best spot ever. We noticed there was no grass at all, and the area looked patted down. To the side, there was a passage at least 30 feet wide and maybe 1/8 of a mile long with no trees, just small shrubs. And as I looked away at 45 degrees, I heard a twig break, so I looked back. I had the latest Polaroids on and I couldn't see anything else there. And as I went to look away again, I seen a big, hairy man jump from one side to the other like nothing. He must have been 9 feet tall if he was standing up, and about 3 to 4 feet wide, and his feet were 10 feet off the ground. Then the smell faded away. Almost black in color and hairy, not furry. I can tell you, Steve, in those days, I was a tough guy and I would stand up to 3 men anytime. I think that day I almost swallowed my tongue and I haven't been back there since. One of the Aboriginal elders told, "We don't talk about them, and they are not animals. They are bush people. It's a pity the dumb white man effed it up for everyone. We used to trade with them, and they would look after us too." Please share this one, Mike. Mike, share it. That would make anybody almost swallow their tongue, don't you think? Well, it has. It has to tens of thousands of people. Gulf Breeze UFO/orb in the woods. Hi, Steve. Great show. Hopefully you don't get censored for telling the truth. It's happened before. I've been a Sasquatch enthusiast for as long as I can remember. I've even written a screenplay about them. Space Sasquatch. However, I'm not writing you to promote my screenplay or share a Sasquatch encounter. I'd like to share 2 stories of mine that are similar to stories you previously shared. Like many kids growing up in the early 80s, I was enrolled in Boy Scouts. Every year, Scouts Canada would select 2 top cubs from every troop from across Ontario to send them to a week-long summer camp. My best friend Christopher and I were selected to represent our troop. We went to Camp Attawandaron. 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 The campsite consisted of several small wooden cabins that surrounded a large campfire. The cabins looked like your basic wooded tool shed with one small window on a sheet of plywood for a door. My first night there, I remembered waking up in the middle of the night and seeing a bright white orb floating around my cabin. It was the size of a tennis ball. However, it would slightly morph just a little as it slowly maneuvered around. I was scared, yet curious as I laid perfectly still in my sleeping bag, pretending my eyes were closed. I knew it wasn't a flashlight. It couldn't be. The plywood door was closed, and the only window was covered with burlap. The orb floated around for about a minute or two, then vanished through the wall like a ghost. I sat up, looked around to see if anyone else had witnessed it, and unfortunately, I was the only one awake. The orb returned several times throughout the night, and needless to say, I didn't sleep very well. No doubt. The next day I told Christopher about the orb, and he believed me, but he wasn't skeptical. That night, Christopher said he'd stay awake and keep watch. And I appreciated the fact that he'd do that for me. I tried to fall asleep, but I couldn't. And about 20 minutes later, I noticed Christopher was fast asleep. So I eventually fell asleep. And a couple hours later, I remember being woken up by Christopher grabbing hold of my forearm. The orb was back. We both watched as the orb slowly circled around our cabin. I could feel Christopher's grip on my forearm getting tighter as the orb slowly hovered over us. The orb disappeared through the wall, and Christopher jumped up, screaming. He burst through the plywood door and ran barefoot to the leader's main cabin. I was right behind him. When the leaders asked us what happened, I told them about the orb. One of the leaders said, "It's back again." Another one said, "I told you guys not to let anyone sleep in that cabin." Inside my head, I was thinking, how many times has this happened? Other kids gathered around us, wondering what had happened. The leader looked at us and said, "It was only a flashlight. Go back to bed." They vacated everyone from my cabin and moved us into a different one. They would let anyone sleep in that cabin for the remainder of the week. Why move us out if it was only a flashlight? My uncle Randy is full-blooded Ojibwe. I told him about the orb, and he said his ancestors used to talk about the White Witch of the Woods, a white ball of light that would travel through the dark woods at night. I thought I'd share that story with you after seeing your video of the white lights in the woods. Now for the main story. Gulf Breeze UFO, St. Petersburg, Florida, March 1988. I just turned 15. My family and I were visiting my grandparents, and they used to lease a trailer in Florida. It was around 9:30 p.m. I was sitting outside when all of a sudden the hairs on the back of my neck suddenly stood up. I looked straight up and found myself staring directly into the underbelly of a UFO. Thinking I was about to be abducted, I ran to the trailer. I stood on the steps with my hand firmly gripping the door handle. I was in complete awe as I watched the UFO silently float by. And the UFO was circular, about the size of a UFC octagon. Titanium in color, and the center of the underbelly had a bright white circular light, and it was flying exceedingly low, slightly above the power lines, approximately 20 meters off the ground. It was so close I could see what appeared to be black diamond-shaped windows and strange symbols engraved on the side. I opened the trailer door and yelled, "There's a UFO outside." By the time everyone had gotten outside, it was already a couple blocks away, and I asked if we could get in the car and chase it. Unfortunately, everyone had been drinking that night, and I went inside and immediately drew multiple pictures of what I had seen. About a year or so later, I was in my parents' basement watching Unsolved Mysteries. They're doing a show from Tampa Bay, Florida. They were talking about the Gulf Breeze UFO, and I immediately recognized the UFO and ran upstairs to show my parents. They were a little skeptical, so I ran back downstairs. I grabbed the pictures I had drawn from the night I saw it. My mom looked at my drawing and said to my dad, "Jim, that looks a lot like what's on TV." Wow, good one. Ed Walters, a contractor from Florida, managed to videotape the UFO. He also photographed it with a Polaroid camera. Ed wrote a book called The Gulf Breeze UFO, and he even appeared on Oprah. Oh, lucky he didn't get sex trafficked after visiting her. Kidding, not really. I went to my local library and signed out Ed's book. I'm so thankful to see Ed's photographs of the UFO. I can now validate what I had witnessed. Man, that's awesome. That's great. However, the naysayers accused Ed of hoaxing the entire thing, claiming he used a tiny model. They totally discredited him, along with the more than 2,000 other eyewitnesses, myself included. Isn't it funny how easy it is to do that? To just discredit some honest person? All just words. Words are effective. It's crazy. When something the size of a UFC octagon slowly floats over your head at an exceedingly low altitude, there's no way of mistaking it for a tiny model. When I tell my friends about the Gulf Breeze UFO, they'll Google it and they'll tell me it's a hoax. Sound familiar? I know what I saw that night, and I'm more than willing to take a lie detector test. I thought I'd share these stories with you. Thanks for doing what you do. Kind regards, Andrew Barber. Andrew, appreciate you, man. Welcome to the club. You're a free, brave human. Good for you, getting to that place. I wonder if regressive you know what I'm talking about, hypnoregression, where you get hypnotized and taken back to that day. I wonder if that would be of interest to you, and then maybe even possibly clearly recollect the size and shapes of the etchings or whatever is on the side of that craft. I wonder if you could do that, maybe, just throwing it out there, and then have those images clearly drawn and see if they match up with any old time text or drawings like carved in the pyramids or something. You know what I mean? Not the pyramids, but the old Egyptian ruins. You never know, right? You never know. Here's an odd title. I'm going in. This is titled, "I Think You're My Dad." Uh-oh. Not really. Thought that'd get your attention, though. That would be pretty cool. Okay. Anywho, my name's not important, but Kevin. I've had many unnerving experiences in my 45 years, greater than or equal to traumatic experiences. Abuse, assault, physical, sexual, mental, emotional, kind of similar to your upbringing, but not as bad. Not as bad, sounds a little worse, actually. I was never sexually assaulted. About 10 years ago, I was carjacked. And while I was sure the dude was going to kill me and take my car, he put the gun in his own mouth and bloodied my passenger seat. Oh, how kind. I say all this because my overall point is to not only find answers to what else inhabits this realm, but also the obvious yet rarely mentioned connections between these paranormal experiences and trauma. So I'll shut up and stop whining and get to the actual relevant encounters. When I was 8, roughly, and lived in Warwood, West Virginia, I was saying goodnight to my grandparents, whom I miss very much. And as I walked away, I saw 3 little heads watching me through the back door. I couldn't really make out their faces, but they seemed to be laughing or smiling and had dark hair that resembled Moe from the Three Stooges. They also appeared to be short or small and were standing on their toes to see through the window portion of the door up top. I don't remember much after that, but I put my head down and kept walking. That reaction happens again roughly 20 years later in Wellington, DE. I was walking from one court to another in an apartment complex I lived and worked at for over a decade. I kept through a small patch of woods with a building on my left and the woods on my right. I can't stress enough, this is not a rural area. Highly populated, active, and while there's a lot of trees and small woods, it's not even close to anything but decorative. Anywho, as I walked, I heard a click or a tick and felt the urge to look to my right, like when you feel someone staring at you. Same feeling I had with the three mini stooges, haha. When I looked to my right, I saw something peeking out from behind a tree, roughly 50 yards into those woods. It had one hand on the front side of the tree and was leaning out from behind it. I could see from the hips up. And here's the crazy part. It was made of static/snow, like when the cable's out. It gave some kind of light, and as I was able to see it in the dark woods, it also had either horns or pointy ears. But due to the staticky makeup, I couldn't tell. I once again don't remember much after it, but also once again, I just put my head down and kept walking. Both of these encounters felt more curious and threatening. No terror, just an automatic reaction to put my head down and keep walking. Someone I shared these with pointed out the similarity and suggested I was being commanded to keep walking. Makes sense, I guess. Moving on, about seven years ago, my fiance and I were kind of homeless. We had a van and were hotel hopping till we could find a new apartment. We were waiting for a check to clear and had to spend a night in the van. So she decided to drive us out into the remote areas of southern New Jersey near Millville. Millville, we've had Millville mentioned here before. We were far enough out there that there were no lights, no people, nothing. Just us sitting in the van on a dirt cul-de-sac in the middle of nowhere, New Jersey. We're just sitting there, smoking, chatting, when all of a sudden a wave of terror washed over me. Only me, not her. Take note of that. Put that on a shelf. Much different than the prior experiences. I felt fear, malice, and like something was watching me. We were pretty much surrounded by the woods, except the road that led out of the cul-de-sac. I never saw anything, but felt so threatened I wasn't sticking around to find out what was causing this. Of course, she kind of laughed and started the van and got us out of there. Not a very exciting story, but fits the intense fear some speak of. Excuse me. There's a few more, mainly sleep paralysis, that I experienced quite frequently throughout my entire life. I'd wake up and barely able to see out the slits of my eyes, but always made out the three grayish, blurry things standing at my bed. Said how many people? You know, how many people has reported that? It happened in several states, locations, and houses. Didn't matter where I was, it found me. The craziest of those, I suppose, would be when I was 15, shortly after moving to Willington, DE. Is that Delaware? I was listening to music in the dark, like most brooding teenagers, and fell asleep. I never sleep on my stomach. I don't understand how anyone can, but to each their own. And all of a sudden I was having this sleep paralysis feeling. But instead of looking up, I was looking down at me, sleeping on my back on the bed. Once again, I heard that click-tick sound and felt myself fall. Then I woke up in my bed, only I was on my stomach. Again, these aren't intense, crazy encounters where you see something that isn't supposed to exist, but after listening to your and others' channels, I'm connecting the dots. Good. I love hearing that. Another instance involving that click sound. I was boiling water for tea late at night and went to go check because I didn't hear the kettle tapping. I walked into the kitchen and immediately realized I'd turned on the wrong burner and there was a glass bowl heating up. I was about to turn it off, but heard that click sound again. As I turned around to see what it was, pop, the glass dish exploded, and I felt hot glass peppering the back of my head. I always felt that was strange in a guardian angel type of way, which is a reoccurring thing for me. I should have been dead or severely hurt many times in life, but something always seems to intervene and prevent injury, just like it did by making me turn my head and not get a face full of hot glass shards. I also saw what I thought was a huge but scrawny wolf walking down the road in between Athens and Albany, Ohio. We were driving by and only caught a glimpse, but I can still recall the size and the bright green eyes. The odd part, aside from the size, was There aren't any wolves in southeast Ohio that I know of. Just another weird yet seemingly bland experience, but when you take all these and use the plethora of information found in millions of other people's experiences, it's hard for me not to think there's something odd about it. I'm not very religious, but spiritual and overwhelmingly sensitive to feelings. Always have been. Which always made me feel like a pussy in others' eyes, but over time, instead, I've developed an F you attitude towards anyone trying to make me feel weak, just because I feel things so strongly. I got in a good amount of fights because of it. It's been a long road, sir. I'm often surprised I'm still alive, given how much pain, sadness, and overall torment I've felt inside throughout my life. I also have a lot of health issues. I won't go into detail, but the fact I'm still here and the help I've received along the way tells me not only am I supposed to be here, but something makes sure of it. Over and over. My guardian angel is earning its retirement, that's for sure. Anyhow, I just wanted to hopefully start a conversation about trauma, emotional sensitivity, and these other beings and odd happenings. I know I'm not alone. And hope others can use my trivial info to piece together a larger significant puzzle. That's the whole point, right? To give the people a place to communicate and share. Open and honestly in an effort to derive truth from all the bullshit we're fed. In closing, I want to say I admire and have a great deal of respect for you. Not that means much, but I say how I feel. And I feel you're an example we should all feel lucky to follow. Thank you for being you, giving strength to those who feel weak, and have a voice to the voiceless. You're a great man, and I wish you and Sarah and all your pack all the best. Love and strength and respect. Kevin Straight. P.S. If you're ever in Delaware, I'm sorry, you can say my name. No one cares in FM if they have a problem with me sharing my truth. Clock's ticking, and I ain't wasting any more time hiding or lying to myself. I should have shut up a paragraph ago, so later, brother. No, you shouldn't have. Thoroughly appreciate that email, my man. I have a feeling you and I could sit down and talk about a lot of shit for a lot of days and become great friends if we live nearby. And, yeah, there's a whole bunch of us, you, many others, including myself, that can't believe we're still alive. It always freaks me out at times. Like, what the hell's going on? I don't get it. The amount of times I should have been dead is ridiculous. Doesn't make sense that I'm still here. We're all supposed to be here, obviously. Every one of us has some kind of a purpose. It's just many of us give up before they figure it out. Or many of us give up before they even pursue mastering any purpose. But I'm totally stoked to hear that you're pushing forward, man. You got the right attitude. And don't worry about yesterday. It's gone. Everything that happened yesterday and past is gone. You got today and tomorrow, maybe tomorrow. Celebrate that, focus on that, right? Email back anytime. Now I got to get ripping. I was so taken back in a way when Sarah said, "You got to go back tonight." You're going back tonight. Like, what? I am? No, I'm not. I thought tomorrow. I had so much. I got to fix the rotting lawnmower's broken. Yeah, I got a bunch of stuff I got to do real quick before I leave her and Chippy and the attack dog. And I really, really hope the weather cooperates and these guests who are coming from here have a great time tomorrow with me. Anyway, one more quick note. I gotta bring a little bit of attention to this if you haven't already become aware of. It's when I mentioned about the UK government arresting citizens. I think Australia's doing the same shit, aren't they? And I think Canada's coming right out behind you. Imagine the class of human that would actually put on a badge and do that to the people. Imagine being one of those individuals who will go follow that command from some psychopath and go to a home and arrest and haul away a person who made a social media post about the way they felt that day and enable them to do over 2 years in a cell. That's medieval shit. That is so wrong. It absolutely infuriates me, and I hope to God some of those individuals out there, probably not, but if they are listening and you have a badge and you're willing to do that to your community, you better watch the F out for when it turns around, because you're probably going to be one of the first one that pays big from the people in your community. You are doing the work of the devil. That is so dark, shameful, and how can anybody who's willing to do that to the people in their community, how can you even look anybody in the eye, whether in public or at home? You should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. You're disgusting examples of human beings currently. But there's still time to turn it around. Right? If you know anybody who does that to people in their community, out them. Send them my way with the receipts. People got to start doing some shit to turn this end. We don't do that. We don't do that to anybody. I mean, we do. There's a lot of shit going down the pipe happening to society today and communities. That it's just right up to lunch. We look back in history years ago when people were more barbaric and the things they did to each other. The things they did to each other. Burning witches and burning people at the stake and hanging people in the streets. The shit people are doing to people today is absolutely not acceptable. Not acceptable. It kind of fueled me. I had a couple beers in me there too the other night with my friends. And it kind of fueled me in a way. I was laughing when I did it. And when I used AI to generate a picture of me flipping the bird to the queen and her husband. And I posted that on social media in a way to say, yeah, F you, UK. Right? The whole world needs to jump down their throats and save the people. Oh, that makes me angry. Doesn't it make all of you angry? Please, you gotta admit. Today, people are getting arrested for making a social media post, even if they took it down and apologized after, and they're going to jail today in the so-called modern Western world. Holy shit. So what are you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do about it, Steve? Well, I'm talking out loud to millions of people right now and trying to encourage people to put an end to that shit. You imagine. I guess maybe I'm trying to figure it out how anyone, but at the end again, if we look at our history, I mean, we had rifle people in ovens, right? So I guess in a way, human beings are trainable just like a dog. Kind of amazing though, when we do have access to true history, that people would still do this shit to each other. I mean, there's people doing a lot nastier things to each other, but come on, man. You wear a badge and a uniform and you go to someone's home and pull them out of their home in front of their children and arrest them for a fucking social media post. You're going to a real hot place at the end of this lifetime unless you turn it around. When you're done in this lifetime, I'll basically guarantee you're going to be sweating where you're going to end up from doing that shit to your community. You know what I mean? It's not good. Please, everyone, rise up and put an end to this shit. Please, everyone. Fight back. Point it out. Tell your friends about it. Point it out. Fight back. Get the names of the people that are doing the deeds for the dark sons of bitches to your communities. Expose them. Scream their names out loud. Point them out. Send a picture. Why would that be bad? For some of you go, oh, you're going to, what's it called? Doxing? Oh, you're going to dox them? Are you kidding me? That's nothing compared to what I wish I could do to them. Right? In the name of our community and the people. Children, society as a whole, right? You guys got to fight back, Everybody's got to fight back. Don't let people do this shit. And what happened to our senior kick-ass? You ever notice right now in law enforcement, it's quite common now, we don't have the A-type kick-ass protective people that we put in those positions to only for the sole purpose of protecting our communities. We don't have those old wise people, tough sons of bitches anymore. Do we? I think maybe right now we're starting to, we are reaping the fruits of what we were sown by raising children with iPads. I think that's what's going down. I think that's what's going down, in a way, don't you think? Now we got the next generation coming up, raised by an iPad and raised by daycare. Now they got badges on them. They have no sense of community or no sense of not much. They're willing to go out and arrest people in their community for speaking. Shame on you if you're here. I doubt you're here. We have smart, intelligent people here, but if by any chance some of you scumbags, you brain-dead pieces of shit are here, you're disgusting. There you go. That's my rant for the end of today. Well deserved. Pray for the people, right? Pray for the people. Pray for everyone. Pray for the bad people, the lost souls. Pray for everyone. Make it better. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Get me your truth, all right? Get me your truth. And I'll get it shared word for word until I can't anymore. The only way they're going to stop me is, well, they're not. But the only way they're going to stop me is probably not going to be too pretty. I'll be back later.